Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am excited today or this morning, it's really early for both of us, because I have Mandi Hutchinson on the line, or I don't know what you call it, but say hello, Mandy.
Hey everyone, so excited to be here.
And I'm excited because one of the things that I've been trying to do is just interview different people doing different things in games, right? And we've had designers and publishers and developers and all that sort of things. And I've also been trying to reach out to content creators. And so, you know, you have To Die For Games, you're part of the DiceTyler Network, and you have your podcast with Suzanne. So you're and are all over the place on social media, right? So you've
Yes,
sort of lived in this social media connected content creator world, right?
absolutely. And I got to tell you, social media, that's my home. That's where it all started.
Yeah, and that's actually I often do the origin story thing, and so in terms of where it started, because people are going to be familiar with you in different places where they maybe have heard the podcast or seen your show, or perhaps you oftentimes you have awesome hair, and so you're easy to spot at conventions, but your social avatar changes every once in a while, but is usually a cartoony sort of. So some people might recognize you in different ways, but how did you get into content creation, right? I mean, this is a part-time thing. I'm sure you have a full-time job. How did it sort of come to be? How did you get to it?
So it literally was, I had always played games. So we're going to go back a little bit, but I had
Sure.
always played games, with my family. Like that was important. Like we ate dinner together, we played games together. And then I kind of just dropped off for a while from playing because I just got really busy. Like I played a lot of competitive sports. I'm a makeup artist. So I was doing a lot of makeup traveling, the full time job. I had school, all kinds of stuff. And then I kind of said, hey, I'm getting away from stuff that I love. And I said, let's look what's happening in the board game world online. So I checked it out. I'm like, okay, it's good, but I don't see anyone that looks like me. And when I say that, I know where people's minds are going, but I mean, no one has like crazy hair and no one's, I'm a little out there sometimes. So I wanted to see that translate into board games. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna start, social media and see how people take it. And so I started on Instagram. It was a slow crawl, some really horrific and terrible pictures, but it got better. And then I contacted a friend through a game group and we said, hey, let's do a channel. I'm like, yeah. And we were thinking something really simple once in a while and go from there. Yeah. Well, it turned into something a little bigger than that. And
Yeah.
that's probably, after I met Tom.
Well, but also, I mean, your channel. I mean, you're not just you know one person doing a video once in a while on YouTube. I mean, you have an organized channel with content from different creators and sort of segments, and so it's a pretty. How much time? So I have lots of questions, and I want to go through the history a little bit more. But just generally speaking, when you think of your content creation, how much time per week would you say goes into it?
Oh, I mean, and if we're talking about the whole team, so just to give everyone a little background, we have bloggers. I think we have, well, we're now up to three in two languages. We have three sets for video team. And oh my goodness, like I know myself alone, I probably spend the same amount of hours in the channel a week that I do at my regular job. So anyway, probably about 30 some odd hours a week additional.
Wow.
And that's just me.
Right. Just no.
So
Yeah. Just you. And that's a combination of content creation, channel management, you know, curation, right, selection, and then you got to play games too, right? And
exactly.
you obviously you're going to lots of cons. Now, I don't know how many, but a lot of them. But let's so you sort of decide you're gonna, because there's a lot of people who just are feel like they can jump into content creation, they want to do it, and that everyone sort of, when it comes down to the social media stuff, tends to be starting at a level playing field, right? Everyone can just sort of jump in and give it a shot. But so there is the DiceTyler Network, and a lot of people are always like, well, how do we become a part of it? And for the most part, if you don't know, it really is talking to Tom. Like,
Yeah.
he's pretty open to emails and reaching out to him or at a convention, and he's sort of always looking for more stuff.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
the stuff he wants, but he is. But how for you? How did you? It sounds like you were pretty early on in your channel when you know joined the network or started contributing. How did that unfold?
So as I said before, like I had met Tom, so I'll go back to that. It was it would probably see like a couple months in with the channel. We had just started, maybe like a couple videos in. And just for the record, I had no idea how to use any type of editing programs, nothing. So I'm not a tech person. I've learned much now, but don't ever go back and look at my first videos. They're awful. And so we went to an international tabletop day in Montreal for Z-Man Games. And I said, oh, is that Tom Vasil? And I was like, this is interesting. So anybody who knows me knows I'm very direct. So I pulled out a card. I went over and I said, hi, Tom. He's like, oh, hi. And I think my hair was like a pinky red at the time. Sure. I'm sure he was like, wow. And I handed him my card. I said, I watch your channel. You got some good stuff on there. We'd love to do some content for it.
Your channels are right. I mean, I think you cover some things, but,
Sure.
Maybe you could do some better editing.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like surprised, but he was like, oh, like this is great. And he's like, he was glad to see more women. That's what he told me. He's like, I'm glad to see more women getting into the hobby. So that as soon as he said that, I'm like, I like this direction. I like where we're going here. And he said, if you're interested, send me some stuff and we'll take a look at it. So it wasn't until like months later where we sent him like a little audition video for Lunchtime Gaming. And he's like, it's perfect. And went from there. Yeah.
And then so that's in the video space, and Lunchtime Gaming has looked at a couple Pencil First games, or at least one, Heroes and Tricks.
We've done at least
two, and so thank you.
No problem.
And but so you start doing that segment. You're growing your own channel. When did the podcast with Suzanne start on the DiceTyler? Like, how did that? Was that just? How did it come together?
So Suzanne and I met at BGGCon last year. That was the first time we actually met in person. The first time we actually had like a conversation, and that was the first time we did a video together. And that was the video about inclusivity. That sparked a lot of debate, but good and bad. But for the most part, people were really happy about it. So Tom liked the connection between Suzanne and I. Because, we just met and we were able to do a video where we got along great. And then we worked together at Gamma and we got along really well. And then we did our individual podcasts as guests on with Tom and Eric. And the feedback was really good. People enjoyed us being on with them on their segment. And after a while, Tom just kind of, hey, what do you guys think about doing a podcast together? What? So, Suzanne's been on the channel for a long time and produced some fantastic content.
Oh, sure. She's super active.
She's great. And, I'm a bit newer on the scene, but trying to push through with the DiceTyler. And I think that, that's coming along. So Tom just asked us and he said, I like what you guys are doing. I like what you represent. And, it happens that we're both women and we can, people of color, and we can give a different perspective. So I thought that's how it kind of happened.
Cool. And so, okay, so now I have all sorts of questions. Let's see if I can... I have to sort of. I'm a little assembling in my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's Friday, but okay, all right. So okay, I think I'm going to start on the content creator side. Okay, so on the content creator, you clearly started, as you said, not knowing how to edit, not knowing how to use a camera, or maybe you didn't say that, but you said edit, and you didn't.
I know you can go with that assessment.
Okay, and just an interest. And so, and again, you're like slowly stepping into like, like the overlord of your channel. And so how did, if you were talking to a new content creator and saying, hey, here's how you should get in, how would you say somebody should start easing their way into it and building some of the skills that you now have?
So I'll start off by saying I'm lucky. So we do have a gentleman that Paul DeVoe that does our volunteers his time to do the videos with us. He's the one who does the videography in our earlier videos. And I also have friends who are videographers and do that type of work. So I was given a lot of programs that people don't have when they're starting out. So I just want to say that from the beginning. I just had to learn them. So before starting out, probably the best thing to do, and which is probably now I'm regretting not doing this, do a little bit of research first. Maybe take a look at how much time you can allot to certain things and learn the programs that you're going to use. For me, I was learning as I went along, which made things a little bit more painful and a little bit longer. Have an idea of the type of audience you're going for. Yes, you want it to be to everyone, but let's be honest, not everyone's going to like what you're doing, and that's okay. You just kind of have to think of what do you want to present. So have a plan.
Right.
And I mean, I sound I'm a teacher, so I sound totally like a teacher right now, but it helps versus just jumping in. It just, you're going to make mistakes
Right.
regardless,
Right. And you
and you learn from.
and you were talking about a plan, but the other thing you just mentioned, right, is either having a voice or finding your voice, right? Your perspective
Right.
that your people are going to connect and associate with you. You mentioned programs like three times. What programs do you use? I mean, what's your tool set?
So I was very lucky that a friend of mine was kind enough to set me up with the Adobe Suite.
Right.
So I have used Adobe Premiere for video editing. I'm touching a little bit into After Effects, and
Oh,
yeah, I'm. That's Carol, my other host, co-host on the channel. That's her thing. That's new for me. Mostly Premiere.
and actually, Premiere is great. It's funny. I mean, I every once in a while we. I mean, I think of moving over because I have used it at one point or another, but I'm still on just iMovie, which can be rough
Oh,
at times. But
oh, but you have
it's
Apple.
yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, you can use Adobe Premiere, but Apple iMovie on Apple, I think it's either free or $10. I don't remember. You just sort of get it with, so it doesn't cost anything. Um,
Right.
but you can only put two feeds together at once. I mean, it's pretty rough at times. But so you use Premiere, and what equipment did you start with? Was it a camera? Was it your phone? Your computer? What was your device?
So this was a lot of trial by error, but to be fair, like I said, we had a volunteer that was helping us, so Mr. DeVoe, and he had a DSLR. So I didn't even have a camera. We were using Paul's camera and his expertise to film. And video wasn't his thing. He's a photographer, but he was learning, so we used his camera. And then the cell phone was great for, if he wasn't around or I needed to get some extra shots. I have an
Well,
iPhone.
and so when you say volunteer, I mean, was this a friend you asked? Did you go to a campus and say we need an intern? I mean, how did you meet up with him?
So over the course of the channel, I've had a couple volunteers. So Paul was moving from Toronto to Ottawa. So he's older. He's got, grandkids, and he's been doing photography for a long time. But I put out an ad on Kijiji. And I just said, hey, you want to get some experience doing video on a new and upcoming YouTube board game channel? And he responded, and we got along great, and went from there.
And I mean, I think that's awesome. I think a lot of people underestimate how easy is not the right word, but how many opportunities there are to get help and meet up with people when you want to do really specific things and specific things locally. I mean, I think people sort of assume it needs to be just them in their room or at home or whatever, but that through different channels, whether it's BGG Board Game Geek, or if it's Craigslist or whatever, or you're just stopping by your local school, there are tons of people that want to gain experience in different jobs and different roles, right? And maybe they're not a personality that's fighting to be on the camera, but they know how to manage the camera well, right? So
No,
I
he
think that's
actually doesn't like board games at all.
he's like, I don't want to play, just let me film.
Pretty, literally, that's him. He's like, yeah, I'm not interested. Just I'll do the pictures and the filming. I'm good with that. I like spending time with you guys.
And so okay, so that's sort of you're getting in and finding your voice and your perspective, and use tools you can find, but then so as you started growing your channel and your content, how did you, because you moved from being just a content creator to essentially like managing a channel. And so when you think of
Yes,
managing a channel, what's that like?
it's difficult. I mean, like life and everything else. There are moments where you kind of go, I don't know if I want to do this. I've had a couple of those moments because there are times where you end up taking on a lot. So in my day job, I manage people. So it's like that. But you want it to be fun. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't want
Sure.
it to seem like you're bossing people around or do this or do that. I always, in our team, it's like, do as much or as little as you want. Let me know. So that way we're not promising something and not delivering, that sort of thing. But definitely managing, it's something that I've taken on. And that means I will be the one taking on any work that's not being done. That's the way I look at it. I'm never going to force anyone to do anything or push anyone. It's supposed to be fun, but it can be stressful.
Well, and when do you think you hit that? I find that as people start to scale hobbies, right? You have a full-time job, so it's a hobby. I have a full-time. This is a hobby. When
Right.
you start to scale it, you oftentimes bump into that point like, boy, I'm not really doing what I want to be doing as much, or boy, this is taking a lot of time, and
Yeah.
you know, am I really like, especially when something goes wrong, and you're like, am I really just re-editing this video? I'm sort of tired, and I have to wake up at 5 in the morning. Um, are you there? How much more do you want to take on? Do you feel like you've hit the sweet spot? Are you beyond your sweet spot now, and you're sort of trying to pull back? Where are you in your sort of content creation piece?
So right now, I'm in a hard place because right now I would say, and I'm sure Suzanne would agree with this because I talk to her a lot, I'm probably at the point where it's a little too much.
Right.
So, and the thing is,
And
I have people on the
thanks for being on, by the way. In the
Oh
morning.
no, no, this is great. Can I tell you? This is the stuff that I used to do a lot of, and I do less of it because I'm doing other things. So I love this. So thank you for having me.
Sure. Well, keep going. So you're
Right. So, I lost my train of thought here. Need a
sorry,
minute.
that
It's
was my
morning.
fault. No, you were
No,
talking about sort of. I asked you if it was too much, and you were saying you were
right.
talking to Suzanne about it.
Yeah. So I think at this point for me, I'm at the point where it's a little too much. To be fair, we just kind of launched the podcast, so we're having a lot of reaction to that and dealing with that because it's not something that's a regular thing. So we're constantly tweaking it until we kind of get it exactly where we want it. So that's taking up a lot of time, which I don't mind because it's important. I think on the channel, things are ramping up as well because now we do live Twitch playthroughs, which are doing really well. I have the chit chat with Carol, which people really like. So my time is kind of split between doing reviews with Carol, doing the live stream Twitch with Michael, doing the podcast with Suzanne, and then I edit all the board game breakfast. And,
Oh
I'm the main.
man, you edit the board game breakfast?
I edit the board game breakfast. I edit Carol and I split the editing between our episodes. Michael, thank goodness, does all the editing for Twitch. Thank you. And but yeah, so any editing it's me.
Well, and for those who don't know, if you look at Board Game Breakfast, you might be like, oh well, it's just a bunch of videos lined up in a row. But editing, timing, and putting those videos together and loading in the files and organizing them,
Yep.
and that's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not even fun editing. That's just like, it's just work. It's just time.
That's that's not even including the admin stuff we have to do, like the emails to organize and yeah.
Wow. I didn't know. See, you learning something new every. It's okay. And so this is, I sort of, you end up as you're trying to get into a space and connect, and you take on all these different little bit of everything type jobs, and you learn which ones you like, which ones you don't. But jobs, part of growth, and if you take on a job, you sort of need to do a good one, and you got to, you can't like take on you can, but oftentimes people don't like to take on a job for 2 weeks or a month and be like, you know what, I signed up for a year, I was really part of it, but I don't like this. I'm out. Because you're trying to become a major part in the space, and part of that is demonstrating to people that you're consistent and committed and can get things done. So,
Right.
so how do you? So you're extended is one way of calling it.
That is a very good way to say
And
that.
you're extended in all these different categories and all these different roles and responsibilities. What you going to do about it?
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm actually working on planning things out a little differently right now. So thank goodness for the podcast. So Suzanne and I do not edit the podcast. So thank goodness Tom took pity on our soul and he's helping out with that. But Suzanne and I we split the responsibilities. Thank goodness she does all the backgroundy stuff. So what I'm trying to do within everything is maybe pull back on some things or, split the work a bit differently. Doesn't mean I'm doing less. It's just certain things take longer to do than others. I'm trying to make more time for myself to do other things because like I do other hobbies like in the way I snowboard or sewing. I have a dress that's been sitting on my sewing machine for months now that I haven't finished. I said that's not cool. I haven't been to the gym in forever. So yeah, I need to do a review for a game. I'm the type of person, I don't like to see things sitting around. I want to get it done now, out the door, it's finished. I hate people having to wait for things from me. If there's not a deadline, I think 1 day or two won't kill me. I need to just take it down a notch, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big secret to life, right? I'm reasonably good at task management, organization, and sort of I've come around on the Like I was a total burnout workaholic, destroy your life type of person. And once you sort of have actually destroyed your life and you have to sort of recognize that and put it back together, you realize a few things. And I think that one of the things is just being able to say, you know what, it's okay if I don't do this today.
Right.
It's okay if I don't. I did that thing. I don't need to do 7 things every day. I don't have to I can do everything I want to do, and it doesn't all have to be done immediately. And sort of appreciating, recognizing that is helpful. And I think one of the other challenges for me, I don't know if it's true for you, big challenge for me is it's like, I know what great content looks like. I know what a well-edited video looks like. I know what how to do things well. And when you start making those decisions on time, you sort of say, well, I'm okay with not editing this, or I'm okay with, not doing After Effects and graphics and I'd love it to have that, but that would result in me having to spend all that time. So I'm just going to be okay with the fact that it doesn't. A good example is these Skype videos. When I started doing them, because I don't have Premiere, this program gives me your feed, my feed, and our feed together, but it's not like smart. It just gives me raw video.
Oh, okay.
And so, if you go watch the early QAs, I literally would then do the video and then edit it and start putting in, me talking, us talking, you talking, me talking, us talking, and do the whole thing. And, you have to, you don't want to cut at the wrong time, but Premiere has the ability to set up feeds, and you put the cameras in, and you're like, camera 1, camera 2.
Right.
iMovie doesn't, so I literally had to do it once, and then bring in you, and then again to bring in me. And it was like I was spending 3 hours doing these Q&As, and then one broke, and I ended up just doing the whole thing. Yeah, it's the Mike Pascal video. But anyway, I figured it out. But the point was, I just did the whole thing side by side.
Yeah.
And no one complained. It's not as good, but no one complained. And if it's not as good and no one complains, then it's going to be the easier version.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
So you're getting organized, and you're are you thinking about changing some of the things you work on? Are you thinking about doing less or doing different, or is it just, no, I just need to be more organized and cut out more time for myself?
So it's kind of a bit of both. I think right now the problem is everything is coming to a head. Like everything's doing really, really well all at the same time. So I feel like cutting back on content is not necessarily the way to go for some things. But then at the same time, I don't want to burn out, because at the end of the day, the common denominator in all of these things is me.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
You have momentum, right?
Right. So I don't want to lose that at this, because I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, it's too much, and then step back, and then you disappear, people forget about you, and sorry, you come back, sorry, who are you again? So I don't really want to do the starting over bit. So I think for me, it's just I'll be honest, after cons, that's the worst, because that's when it's not like I'm getting review copies kind of throughout the year. It's like all at once. And then it's like, oh, wow. So now I have to prioritize when all of these need to come out. I think cons for me, it's probably the worst time, and which is what we're at right now. It's right after Gen Con. So now I'm trying to get content out so I don't have a backlog of games to review.
I try to have at least the 2 weeks following a con, other than very con specific, like feed from a con, that kind of thing, have 2 weeks already sequenced, lined up, and filmed, so that you have even if you want to do new stuff, you don't feel like you're having to fill in whole gaps if you can do it.
Right.
And so I think that momentum piece is important. Especially content creator Burnout. Undead Viking Lance just did a really good video on sort of new creators, and it was a little bit more about people don't be frustrated if you don't have views, and you don't you got to earn views. They're not just yours. You don't deserve it. But he talked about burnout as well, and it's something that I think creators need to recognize, and the position you're in is an awesome position, but it's one of the most challenging is when you feel like you have momentum because and which I really do think you do, but when you have momentum, there's sort of this pressure, pressure to perform, pressure to continue, pressure to deliver, pressure to do more,
Right.
which it doesn't create a fear, but it creates this, it's pressure. It means you feel like you can't just take a break or take time off or just, like, I just want to stop for a month. You feel like you'll lose that momentum, right?
Exactly. And unfortunately, in my situation, like, let's say Carol's like, yeah, I need a little bit of a break. That's fine. It's me at the end that's like, okay, I can't really take that break. I have to keep it going. Not that she would ever do that. Carol's probably works as much as I do.
No, sure,
But
sure.
do you know what I mean? It's not as, I don't even know what the right word is,
Well,
but
it's your
I,
thing. It's your thing, and you have
right,
contributors, and you're growing it. But you feel like you have to fill in those spots, right?
right, exactly.
And
But I do have people on the team, like I have to say, like that are I have to throw it out there. They're like everyone's amazing, but like as of late, like Carol and Michael and James, they've been amazing, like seriously amazing.
and something that you'll start because you're going to continue to grow and become bigger and run the world. And as you do, one of the things that you'll learn, I believe, is both the delegation that you're doing, but that release of ownership and setting up the ability for people to step into roles and start taking that from you and feeling that way. You may be surprised, but if not already, your co-creators and people on your channel are going to actually start thinking of it as theirs and taking those responsibilities. And sometimes it comes, you're going to have some job thing. You're like, hey, everybody, I have 2 weeks, or I just got promoted, or I'm about to get fired, or whatever. I need 2 weeks, and people they'll take those opportunities to step up. So you may find that relief will come when it needs to, right?
It's happening now. I gotta say.
She's
So
like, right,
no,
right.
it's happening now. Like specifically with the Twitch channel, Michael. When I said, just come on, do whatever you want. Like no pressure. We'll try it out. He legitimately is like, okay, Mandy. So I've scheduled it now. So you're away traveling to this con and this con. Okay, I've set myself and I'm gonna do a solo game that week. We just don't want to lose people. And I'm like, you go, you take that on. And he'll pick the games that we're doing. He's like, are you good? I'm like, you do whatever. He will take the initiative and learn the games because he knows I'm busy. He'll learn the games in advance and then he'll teach it to me and we'll play it a few times before we do the playthrough. But I let him run with it. The Twitch thing, that is Michael Corneau. Technically it has my name on it, which we need to change, but it's his thing. I'm just there for the chat. And I'm okay with it. I'm
Yeah,
very okay with
for
it.
sure. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, yeah, and things can boom. Remember, so we did the Jen can't roll and
Yeah.
write judging, right? And that was an interesting situation of unforeseen ballooning work, right?
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, it was sort of be expected you'd get a lot of submissions, but it was like what 81, 82 some ridiculous number of games, and to learn a
Yes.
game, especially one that's a little bit poorly written, play a number of times, and then think about discuss it. I mean, 100. I mean, it was a lot of time to get through all
It
that
was a lot.
stuff, right?
I was
Um,
up till like 2 in the morning doing that stuff. I know.
um, so I guess so. I think that struggle, the perspective on that struggle on the go, I think that's just really important for content creators to just sort of listen to. Right, you're going to hit it in your own way as your own person with your own channel, but it does. It's very real.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, different question.
Yeah.
There are opportunities here and there for contributing to the DiceTyler Network. You know, again, usually it's a Tom reach out and audition tape, or here's the segment, or here's the idea. Hey, could I be a part of Board Game Breakfast, or could I do this, or could I do that? And it takes initiative. Sometimes I'm sure I mean, I don't know, maybe he reaches out to people, but I do understand that oftentimes people reach out and say, hey, can I be on? And he's like, send me your thing. Um, um, how has that been for you? I mean, obviously you're getting more and more involved. Like, what's your perspective on just joining and being a part of the Dice Tower Network?
Oh my goodness. So, as in how I feel about it,
Well, I don't
or
know, whatever. I mean, because some people, there are people who feel like it's great, but you end up you grow their channel more than you do yours, and it doesn't really translate. That the viewership you have over there doesn't really translate to your own channel. I mean, I mean, I would assume since you're still doing it and you're so active, you're very happy doing it. You're like editing all like I assume you like it, but like
so
what?
honestly, people, yeah, it's funny because for the longest time, people kept writing in like it came up. So really like the lunchtime segment, but do you guys have like your own channel? I'm like, wow, people don't even know we have our channel because I wasn't putting anything in the video to tell them about it. So for me, I actually really like doing it, and maybe it's because like we'll have people coming up to us at a con. They're like, wow, we really liked your segment. It helped us pick some games to play with. XYZ we never would have picked, or we didn't know about this game. Can I tell you that is why I do it? If people are getting something out of it, and I know people are like, yeah, right, no, literally, I was a teacher for years. I chose that profession because I like to give to people, and I love seeing what happens after they've been taught something or they've learned something. Wow, they're appreciative. They benefited from it. So for me, it's a wider audience to say, hey, check this out. This is cool. This is fun. What do you guys think? And the Dice Tower family, very nice people. Very nice people to work with. You get to work with other contributors. You get other ideas. Yeah, honestly, I don't think my segment's bringing in like thousands of people to the channel. They've got that covered. So I pretty much told Tom, I'll keep doing it as long as people are enjoying it. He's happy with the content. We're happy with the content, and people are getting something out of it. We've actually had people come over. Hey, I didn't realize you had a channel, and we've had the boost in subscribers. But literally, from the end of the day, if we're still having fun doing it and people are benefiting, I'm good with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the best. You got to keep the personal satisfaction piece, right? When you lose
Exactly.
the personal satisfaction piece, it'll drag real quick, real fast.
Absolutely.
So we've coming on a little over 30 minutes of chit chat. I think we've. I mean, in terms of the areas that I thought would be really interesting, sort of talking about how you got into the DiceTyler Network and that piece, and your own channel and how you've been growing. Is there anything going on right now? Is there anything you want to share in particular, or?
Nothing. I mean, right now it's really the podcast is like the big thing with Suzanne and I with the Dice Tower. I want to throw out, it will be different than Tom and Eric. We get a lot of comments about that. We are not Tom and Eric. I know you miss them dearly on those every 2 weeks, but we're just trying to do something a little different. Otherwise, Tom would not have asked us to do it. He knows that we're a little quirky and fun and different and love talking about games. That's why he asked us to do it. So give it a shot. There may be 1 or 2 segments you like. And, we're definitely going to try and incorporate little bits of Tom and Eric. We don't want people to get homesick. But my point of that is give it a chance before you make a judgment. Overall, feedback's been amazing. The Twitter community has been fantastic.
Sure.
Even this, the board game industry, everyone's been great. So, give it a chance. If it's not for you, that's okay. But
awesome. When can they listen? When does it post?
So it's every 2 weeks. So the next one coming, what episode is that? Is that 523, I believe? That will be, oh my gosh, I actually have to think about that.
Well, don't worry about the episode. What's the time slot? And they'll figure out the episode.
Let me think. So we're recording on Tuesday. So it's the following, not this coming week, the following Tuesday. So it comes on Tuesday morning.
The following Tuesday is
let's do the calendar.
The 19th.
The 19th.
All right. So check out the podcast. Check out the podcast. You may have to wait for Tuesday, but the YouTube channel is just sitting there with all the content. And obviously, Board Game Breakfast. Apparently, this is the hand of Mandi brings it together. But thanks for joining and being so awesome. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on. This has been so much fun. I missed this.
All right. And thanks to everyone watching or listening. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Most importantly, play some great games. Bye.
Bye.